what I need. It's time to make that call.
Money Matters time on the Buffalo Toyota afternoon drive with a report for your wallet. Hey, Casper, looking outside lately, you could almost think we should be talking about umbrellas rather than money. But somehow you've managed to turn rainy days into financial lessons for us. How do you do that? Hey, Casper?
Yes, we all know the phrase, save for a rainy day. The problem naturally is many households, the rain arrives way before the savings do. And sometimes the rain is not one dramatic event. It is 5 small things landing in the same month: the fuel, the groceries, school cost, a tire, and unexpected medical expenses. And suddenly, the budget starts to leak.
And of course, the economic weather is not exactly clear skies either. Eh?
No, DCGsa's latest inflation reading was 5% for June, the highest in 2 years, and fuel was one of the big pressures. The Reserve Bank also kept the policy rate at 7% in July. So even somebody who has not lost a job or had a major crisis can feel that their salary simply does not stretch the way it used to.
So then today's question is your financial roof ready when the rain comes?
Exactly. And even more importantly, do not wait until the drizzle becomes a flood before you check the roof.
Okay, now Casper, let's unpack that. What does a leaking financial roof actually look like?
It actually starts quietly. You still pay the bond or the rent. You still pay the vehicle. You are still working from the outside. Everything actually looks fine, A-okay. But grocery starts going onto the credit card, or the overdraft is no longer something you use 2 days. You actually live in it. A store account pays the basics. You take a small loan just to get through the month. Then next month, your salary arrives and part of it already belongs to last month.
So the first leak is often not a missed payment?
Correct. That is one of the biggest lessons I want listeners to take away from today. Financial distress becomes and begins before the first default. If you can only keep all your accounts up to date by borrowing again, then technically you may be paying everyone, but your cash flow is already a warning that something has gone wrong.
And that's very important, Casper, because people often say, I've never missed a payment, so I can't be in trouble.
Exactly. Imagine a roof with a small leak. If you repair it when you first see the damp patch, you have options, and it's cheaper. If you ignore it until the ceiling collapses, the solution becomes more urgent and often a lot more expensive. Money works in a much similar way.
Absolutely. So this is where consumers should consider, are they in a drizzle, heavy rain, or a full-on flood? So we can give listeners, or rather can we give listeners a quick weather forecast of their finances? How do I know if I've got a drizzle, heavy rain, or a full-on flood?
Mr. K, very good question, but let's make it simple. A drizzle is when the budget is tight, but you can still cover your normal monthly commitments for your income without using any new debt. That is the moment to budget harder, cut unnecessary expenses, build even a small emergency buffer, and perhaps restructure your own spending. Heavy rain is when you are paying debt with debt. Credit cards for groceries, overdrafts for debit orders, one loan to catch up another account. Or when you regularly have almost nothing left for food and transport after debit orders. Just the other day, I heard somebody say, 3 days after my pay came in, I don't have grocery money. So that is exactly the person that is in a heavy rain. And that is when I would strongly suggest getting an independent assessment to give you the full picture.
Yo.
Now, the flood.
Yeah.
Oh, here's the big one.
Uh-huh.
Is when the accounts are all in arrears, collection calls are coming in, debit orders are bouncing, legal notices may be arriving, or you have and are frightened that your vehicle or one of your important assets, like your house, is at risk. At that point, timing becomes absolutely critical. You should not hide from the paperwork or the phone calls. You need proper advice and you need it quickly, quicker than Cheslin Colby through a gap.
So your message, Casper, is not everyone who feels pressure needs debt review.
Definitely not. My message is everyone who feels serious pressure needs information. Debt review is one possible regulated solution for a consumer who is over indebted, but it is not a product we should simply rush onto somebody. We first need to understand the person's income, the expenses, the credit agreements, arrears, risks, and what are their goals.
So, in other words, diagnose before prescribing.
Exactly. You would not want a doctor to prescribe medication before asking what is wrong. Financial help should be no different.
Mhm. So now, give me an example, Casper. Two people can earn similar salaries and have similar debt, but experience very different outcomes depending on when they ask for help, right?
Absolutely. Imagine consumer A and B driving down the same road. Consumer A notices the clouds building. Their revolving credit is almost maxed out. Groceries are starting to go onto credit, and the monthly surplus is disappearing. But the vehicle payments are still current. Consumer A says, before I miss anything, let me find out what my position actually is. However, consumer B sees the same clouds but says, next month will definitely be better. Then an unexpected expense hits their bank account. A short-term loan fills the first gap, but the next salary now has another repayment attached to it. The vehicle installment is missed, stress builds,
Mm.
sleep disappears. Every unknown number calling the phone feels like absolute bad news.
Same road, but one person looked for shelter earlier. That's the key.
Exactly. And that earlier conversation can make an absolute huge difference. I'm not saying every early assessment results in debt review. Sometimes we can show a consumer that they can still solve the problem through budgeting, negotiating, prioritizing expenses, or another appropriate route. But if debt review is genuinely suitable, understand that before enforcement escalates, can give the consumer a more orderly path.
Mhm. And of course, there must eventually be a point where waiting has consequences, right?
Yes, definitely, Mr. K. The National Credit Act provides a formal debt review process, but consumers should never assume that every legal problem can simply be reversed by arriving very late. Once enforcement has progressed, the available options can become more limited. That is exactly why early advice matters, not because we want to scare people, but because informed decisions are easier when you still have choices.
Mhm. At 16:46 on the Buffalo Toyota afternoon drive. Got Casper Lagrange in the building from DCGsa. And of course, it's Money Matters, what we do every single Monday around this time. So then, Casper, let's deal with the big word, debt review. A lot of listeners hear it and immediately become nervous. What is it actually meant to do?
Oh, Mr. K, that's a thing. There's a big misunderstanding, but debt review, or alternatively debt counseling, is a regulated process in terms of the National Credit Act, specifically for consumers who are over indebted or foresee in the near future that they might be over indebted.
Yeah.
And in simple language, it is designed to assess that person's financial position and, where appropriate, restructure qualifying debt into a repayment arrangement the consumer can reasonably afford, subject to the legal process and the consumer's specific circumstances.
Oh, but Casper, you always stress that assessment comes first.
Yes, and at DCGsa, we want the consumer to understand the difference between getting information and deciding to enter the formal process. A free credit check and debt assessment is there to help us answer: what do you owe? What are you paying? What is in arrears? And what can your household realistically afford? What risks are developing? And what options should you actually consider?
Mhm. So then, quoting DCGsa does not mean that somebody is going to have debt review paperwork shoved down their nose, does it?
No, we do not want consumers in a process they do not understand or do not want. A successful rehabilitation journey requires commitment, and the assessment is about giving the person the facts so that they can make an informed decision.
Fantastic stuff. And I suppose then the other side of this is that people shouldn't reject debt review because of something they've heard from a cousin or a cousin's friend or on social media.
Exactly. Do not accept it blindly, but do not reject it blindly either. Ask questions, understand the advantages, the restrictions, the cost, the legal process, the expected repayment journey, and what a clearance looks like at the end. Then decide based on your own situation, not somebody else or somebody's cousin's story.
Yeah,
Get the facts from the horse's mouth.
absolutely. Casper, we always try to bring biblical principles into money matters. This topic almost gives us the verse itself.
It really does.
Mm.
Matthew 7 speaks about the wise man who built his house on the rock. Then the rain came, the floods came, and the winds blew, but the house stood because of its foundation.
Mhm. Um, the Bible does not say that the rain never came. And this is important, isn't it?
That is the part I really love
Mm.
about this. A strong foundation does not mean you never face a storm. Financial wisdom is not a promise that your car will never break, prices will never rise, you will never lose overtime, or your family will never have an emergency. The question is what foundation you have when those things happen. For money, that foundation is knowing your numbers, living with a realistic budget, avoiding unnecessary debt, building reserves when possible. And I believe Stephen also talked about that, plan for that unexpected time and plan for that pension. And also protecting essential assets and asking for qualified help earlier when the numbers stop working.
Absolutely. And sometimes rebuilding the foundation means admitting that the current plan is just not working.
Absolutely. There is no prize for pretending the roof is dry while you are standing in a puddle of water. Financial maturity is being willing to look at the facts and make a decision before panic makes it for you.
Now, before we close, Casper, give us 5 damp patches on the ceiling. The warning signs that make someone say, hey, I need an assessment.
Number 1, you use your credit for groceries, fuel, or electricity because your salary is finished. Number 2, you are paying only the minimum amounts and the balances barely seem to move down on your credit. Number 3, your salary goes in and within a day or two, nearly everything is swallowed by debit orders, overdraft, and repayments. Number 4, you are choosing which credit to pay this month and which one to postpone. Number 5, money stress is affecting your sleep, your marriage, your concentration at work, or the atmosphere at home.
Mhm. And that last one is not a number on a credit report.
No, but it matters. Debt is financial, but the effects are emotional and relational. Choose the sooner we replace uncertainty with actual facts, the sooner the consumer can stop guessing and start making a plan.
Mhm. So let's speak to somebody tuning in right now. Casper, the rain is falling, but they do not know whether they need an umbrella, a roof repair, or a rescue boat. What should they do?
Start with an assessment, not an assumption, not a social media myth, not another loan just to buy 30 days. Let us look at the credit report, the household budget, and the actual commitments that you need to pay every month. You may discover that the situation is more manageable than you feared. You may discover that the changes need to happen immediately, or you may discover that a formal solution such as debt review should be considered. But at least you are deciding based on the facts.
And of course, there's no such thing as being too early to ask what your position is.
Exactly. I would rather meet someone when the first damp appears, when the ceiling is on the floor. That's a big problem.
Yep.
So do not wait for the flood. Build on a solid foundation, understand your numbers, and get help early. Now, the financial scripture of the week, Matthew 7, verse 24 to 25, reads as follows. Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who built his house on a rock. The rain came down, the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against that house. Yet it did not fall because it had its foundation on the rock. Financial wisdom is not about believing storms will never come. It's about building your finances on a strong enough foundation that when they do come, you are not immediately washed away.
Mhm. So now, Casper, how do we get in touch with you over at DCGsa?
Oh, naturally, you can call us on 086 100 1047. The goal is not to sell you debt review, it is to help you understand your financial position. Maybe you're sitting at the office now, pop us a WhatsApp 061 432 8499 and book your appointment to make that informed decision.
Mhm. And there you have it. The rain may come, but check the roof before the flood. Okay? This has been Money Matters brought to you by DCGsa right here on Link FM. Casper, always a pleasure. Thank you for coming through.
Thanks, Mr. K, and to everybody listening. Your financial weather can change, but a good plan gives you a stronger foundation for whatever comes next.
Absolutely.
Matters was proudly brought to you by DCG.